of it.
Welcome to another episode of Angels, Positivity, and Love. Amazing guests from all over the world with incredible insights and often incredible experiences too. Quick public service announcement. We did 50 shows in 2023. We've got 124 booked into December of 2024. How do we do that? We are going to 2 shows a week starting June 1st all the way through the end of the year. We'll see if the machinery can stay intact at that point, if I fall apart. We may go back to 1 show for just a couple months. Meanwhile, quick public service announcement about what goes down in the show. Not only do we have amazing guests with all sorts of backgrounds, even a Delta Force operator coming on at some point, they take steps sometimes on the shows much later. So stick around. You can smell sage, lit sage through the screen. It's not a must. More stuff happens off camera. The show isn't about proving anything. We're just here to have a good time. That's why we call it Angels, Positivity, and Love. And with that, we have an amazing on-air TV personality from Chicago. She's been on TV, Chicago Med, Chicago Fire, you name it. She's also an Emmy award-winning journalist, much more, 4 books, show host, and again, much more to her background than that. Jennifer Weigel, welcome to the show, Angels, Positivity, and Love.
Thank you. So great to be here. What a treat.
I'm very excited to have you here and on your show that you do. You've got actually a couple of shows. Spiritual Dammit is just one of them. You've had Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins, the lead singer, if people remember him from the 80s, 90s, and to today, he's still totally active on the music scene. You had him as a guest. You had a lot of like mainstream, really recognizable names as guests on your show. But I want to ask the fundamental, quintessential, what it is to be human, eternal question. Do angels exist?
Well, I didn't used to believe in any of this stuff. When I was a traditional journalist, it was all about everything's wrong back to you in the studio, with fire and hit and run. And I covered 9/11. I covered presidential inaugurations, all of those things. And then when my dad passed away, he was only 56 years young of a brain tumor. And I went on this deep dive into all things spiritual. And so here I am a couple decades later on the other side of it. I have had so many experiences that you can't explain with the traditional journalist hat. And so I've started writing about those. And I always say to people, look, I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm telling all my stories, and then you can take the evidence for whatever you want to, however you want to receive it. But for the angel piece, only recently in 2023 and 4 was I introduced to the possibility that you could call on angels, give them jobs, and watch them show up. So Lorna Byrne, many people know Angels in My Hair is one of her best-selling books. She's been able to see angels since she was 4 years old, lives in Ireland. I interviewed her for my podcast, the Jen Weigel Show, and on my YouTube channel. And she was saying, you got to give these angels a job. They're unemployed. Otherwise, we all have our guardian angel and we've got our loved ones in spirit. We have a team spirit, if you will, I like to think. But imagine unemployed angels. Isn't that a sad thought? So whenever I'm in despair or confused or in traffic or whatever, I'm like, angels, who needs a gig? Let's go, So I was on a path walking and my phone toppled down the ravine. And I, for some stupid reason, thought, oh, I'll go get it. So as I went to walk down this ravine to go get my phone that had fallen into the lake, I took a tumble, Michael, that my friend watched, and she said it looked cartoonish. Like I was like, I went down, and she thought I was going to have a broken wrist, broken ankle, whatever. I got down there and then I couldn't get back up because it was so steep. So I said, hey, angels, first of all, thanks for catching me, because I didn't even have a bruise on me, not a bruise. I said, help me get out of this mess. If there's an angel looking for a job right now, please send them to this lake path. Within a minute and a half, 4 total strangers came, 2 from one side, 2 from the other. They made a human chain to get me out of this ravine and got me out. They showed up completely. So I'm a huge believer now because I keep giving them work. That's what you have to do, though, because of free will. You have to hire them. So I found that fascinating.
I love that. Okay, tell us more about your background back when you were an Emmy-winning journalist and so on. You've also written for the Chicago Tribune and the Chicago Sun-Times, among other places. Tell us, where were you in, did you have time to even think about spirituality or unconditional love or further growth expansion here?
Mm-hmm. No, because it was so busy about human doing instead of being a human being. It was all about your accomplishments and your awards and, what your salary was and all of that third dimensional thinking. I was very steeped in that. When I would have some moments of clarity, and they did happen on occasion, maybe once a year, I'd go get a massage and think, wow, that felt great. And then I'd go right back into the grind because it was my wiring. So it really took a conscious effort to unwire all of that do, go behavior. And once I stepped away from it enough, I mean, you have to work at it. That's what I tell people. Don't think that you're just going to go to one retreat and you're going to get all the answers and then you're going to be completely rewired for the rest of your life. Just like practicing piano or playing an instrument or singing or doing anything that you're taking on, you have to practice at it. And the more you practice, the more it becomes automatic. And so that is why I feel it's so important to even the tiniest little things, from putting a Post-it while you're brushing your teeth, Michael, to just remind you of an affirmation, or, I am loved, I am well, I am happy, I have generous friends, I have fabulous family, like whatever they are, you have to remind your frequency to play in the right frequency. Otherwise, it just goes back down to that lower level because that's the automatic setting. We have to reset it. And it takes a little work, but once you do it, and this, once you do it and you're there, then it feels more like the normal setting. But it takes a little bit of a learning curve to get there.
Okay. And can you take us in the same direction you're talking about? Just talk to us a little bit more about what happens up here versus what happens when you're down here. I mean, there's a lot of names for both: thinking, consciousness, awareness, unconditional love. Can you describe the difference in the flows?
Well, so for me, I have now come to the conclusion that if you're thinking, you're not linking. Because if you're overthinking, and that's Pat Longo was one of my mentors, told me that. If you're thinking, you're not linking, and your first thought is your best thought. Intuitive abilities is that leaf that flies in front of you while you're walking, and you're like, whoa, you're not expecting it. It's not something you're pining over or over analyzing. The more you over analyze, the more you're taking yourself, it's like taking the plug right out of your iPhone. That's just unplugging you from source because you're in your head. So you have to control alt delete. You got to just sit, you got to breathe, you got to center. So for me, I always say, if I'm thinking, I'm not linking. So if I'm repeating the same thoughts over and over again, I know, oh, look at that. My monkey mind is at work. Stop it. Breathe into your heart, get centered, literally control alt delete. And everybody's got to have some sort of something that can get you there, whether it's breathing in for 4, holding for 4, out for 4, the box breathing, whatever it takes for you. Some people just put their hand on their heart. I am interviewing Judith Orloff tomorrow, author of this book, and I love her work, Positive Energy. And, she's really put energy vampires on the map and empathy. And her whole thing is, one of the exercises, you got it right there. There it is.
Emotional
Exactly.
Freedom. I've got 2 copies, the yellow books up there.
Incredible book. And she is just wonderful for having the manual for people who are wired with empathic wiring, which is you feel other people's stuff, you take it on, you want to fix it, but you can really make it your superpower. And that's what I try to empower people. Yes, you can be sensitive. Yes, you can get that feeling in the pit of your stomach, but don't let it disable you. Let it empower you if you figure out how to use your operating system. And so for me now, if I'm thinking, I'm not linking.
Okay. Talk to us about some more of your guests who have been absolutely some of your favorites, not necessarily because they're popular or they ended up being popular on your show, but you yourself, like, you got done with the taping and you were still thinking about either their product, their work. You reread the book as a result of the interview, something that stayed with you for a while. Have there been quite a few of those?
Yes. I really love finding people that don't have books and TV shows or a desire to be, quote, famous at all. I'm not saying that the people who have books are bad. They're wonderful and they're great resources and teachers. But there are some people that are too driven by that, need to be in front of the camera or need to be, the star, if you will. And that I have found has gone very wrong. But there's a gentleman named Nick Lodato that I found out about from Pat Longo. And Nick was, the reason I love Nick's story is, as a very anxious teen, he couldn't leave the house. He was almost agoraphobic to the point where he couldn't finish high school. And he's now a successful nurse and worked in an ER and an ICU, and he's in the New York area. And he was one of Pat Longo's students. Pat has discovered people like Teresa Caputo and Kim Russo and the media mentor. So she's really done a lot of help people, helping people with their toolbox and figuring out their operating system. And Marianne DeMarco is the one I was talking about with the media mentor. But so there's something in the water in Long Island, and I have met a lot of people who I work with on a frequent basis on my Zoom, in my Zoom community, and Nick Lodato is one of them. And so because Nick was so anxious, he's now figured out how to work with his energy. He realized that he was taking on other people's energy. His chakras were blown wide open. So we teach a class called Anxiety is Your Superpower, because literally he's like, no, 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 this isn't happening to you. It's happening for you. Let's get in control, get in the driver's seat. And that's why I love what Nick does, because he's helping like kids 10, 11, 12, and then like 50-year-olds who have just had anxiety for decades and didn't know what was going on, to help them understand just because we can't see it, Michael, doesn't mean it's not happening. Energy is everywhere, right? You know, look, we're beaming into each other through a computer. We can't see the energy that's happening, but it's coming out another end. You know, it's pretty amazing. So Nick is one. Another one is somebody who at first really opened my eyes to this, that miracles were possible. And that's Dr. Mary Neal. Dr. Mary Neal wrote To Heaven and Back and the 7 Lessons I Learned in Heaven. And when I was a reporter for the Chicago Tribune, she was coming to Chicago to speak at the hospital nearby, because she was going from hospital to hospital as a doctor. She's an orthopedic surgeon, still is. And she had a near-death experience where she was without oxygen for 30 minutes, 30. So she's like, I'm a living miracle, because she knows medically you can't be without oxygen for like more than 3 minutes. And so the fact that she's walking and talking is a pretty big thing. And she said to keep track of all those, that's weird kind of moments. And the more you keep track of them, the more they happen, the frequency will ramp up so much that you won't be able to explain it with, you know, any logic, right? The laws of probabilities wouldn't be able to explain it, but it's proof, she says, that the divine is working for you. And so when she said that to me, I went home and I was like, okay, divine, you know, because I was raised conveniently Christian by whoever my dad was married to at the time. So it wasn't like we had a staunch religious background, but going to church when it made sense, always believing there was something bigger, but, you know, didn't have a lot of languaging around it. So I said, okay, divine, if you want me to start noticing, let's start with heart shapes. So I see heart-shaped things. They're all over my social media, from clouds to dirt blobs to dog vomit. I'm not even kidding. They have such a good sense of humor. Heart shapes are everywhere and you can't explain it. So that's how they speak to me, with the little wink that they're listening. That, and now license plates too, because I'm a wordsmith. I write, I'm a writer. I like words. And so they show me words and license plates too. So they're having some fun. I always challenge people, go on, turn your flare on, put out the bat signal that you're open to receive some downloads, and watch the magic happen.
Okay, you've had some water under the bridge, so to speak, in terms of your spiritual path, or we'll just call it growth, expansion. It just means you're paying attention, since that stuff doesn't stop unless you do a lot of thinking and know too much. That's about the only way you can put it on pause for a little while, but life, the universe has a way to getting back in there. So can you talk to us about some of the lessons you've learned, what you've let go of? Maybe we're talking a long time ago, or, you know, along the path. What have you jettisoned? What have you kind of brought on? Is there more simplicity to how you're approaching things? What's been your philosophy to life now?
Yeah, the simplicity is huge. Right now, I just wake up every day and say, show me where you want me to go. I set my intention to help, heal, connect, and use my powers for good. You know, whatever my super skills are, or my writing ability, or my storytelling ability, help me do this to help us raise the frequency on this planet. Where do you want me to go? I used to be much more like focused on, this is what we're going to do and this is how it's going to happen. Now I just focus on the what, and I don't worry about the how. I just know what I do well, and I tell source to show me where to go and how that's going to happen. So letting go of the how has been huge for me, and getting into that trust, because not trusting is just amplified energy in worry of things you can't control. But I also think it's really important to set the intention, always setting the intention. Otherwise, you're just a victim to like whatever happens, right? And so I'll give an example. A friend of mine is teaching an intuitive development class with a bunch of budding intuitives. And I have to say, it's a little frustrating, Michael, because some people just have one hit on somebody and now they want to hang a shingle and become a professional psychic medium after like 15 minutes. It's like, but you can't discount somebody else's experience. They've been doing this for a long time and they have a way of discerning information and filtering it and knowing it's coming from their frame of reference, right? So I set the intention that as I was going to sit and receive, I was only going to receive the messages for my highest good from the highest level, from the ascended master level and above. Like that's it. None of this like bored energies that are attaching to somebody and looking for a puppet, because I think that's something that's happening right now is people are getting lazy with their connection to source and spirit. And they're just kind of like, show me what you got, give me anything. And they're not using any discernment on what's coming through. So it's kind of like just watching anything on TV without going to the channels that you know to be trustworthy channels, right? You might get a lot of commercials. And so I set the intention, only the ascended master level and above energy. And a couple of the people that I sat with that were really new at this were like, you must be really closed down to this work because I'm not getting anything. I was like, if there's anybody who's open to it, I'm the most open, but I was only asking. My intention was only give me the best messages for my highest good. So no white noise, please. And that has changed significantly over the years. In the past, I might have been like, give me whatever you got. Let's go. This is great. But now it's like, don't waste my time with any message that's not for my highest good. Just show me what's for my highest good and let's get to work. Because guess what? Time's ticking. We don't know how much longer we've got. Let's go. We've got work to do.
I love it. If you don't mind talking more about setting your intent, I think that's a really important area. It doesn't mean that people aren't doing it all day long, but maybe you can just take us through ways that people can just feel more confident that they're checking that box correctly. And I'm going to give you a quote from an angel that I think is kind of on the mark here for what we've just been talking about. This is an angel named Dale, coached an Olympic gymnast, if you want to believe all that, who won a lot of gold medals. But to follow her unique life path, he said, just be, and all things can be yours. Create, dream, imagine, and bring it forward. And I would add, obviously, with the help of the universe, angels, just allowing. Can you tell us more about this setting your intent, and what's a surefire way we can go about it, so that we know we're really getting it done?
Intent is really important because it also is sort of like being a truth teller on what your end game is, right? So some people want to do certain things, but I always ask people, ask yourself, what is your why? Okay, so the what is, I say, help me heal through storytelling and connecting people, blah, blah, blah. My why is because I now know, I feel that I've been put here with these skill sets to be put to good use. Okay, that is my why. It's to be in service. So setting an intent really matters with the why. And to be honest with yourself, I mean, really raw and honest. So I'll get people, I ghostwrite for people who can't write or don't write. And that's another one of my passions that I do on the side. So, but I don't take every job because I have in the past taken too many assignments, maybe because the dollar amount was just what I needed at the time. And I thought, oh, this is an answered prayer, but it was actually a test because their why was to get back at so-and-so or to prove to dad that they're worth something, or to, it was like a vengeance in the energy frequency in the field, which made those projects so much more difficult, like slogging through mud. Okay, so if your why is to get back at somebody or for any sort of ego attachment reason where you haven't done your trauma work, I tell people, look, we're all works in progress, but you have to address the work that needs to be done. And if you think that by being famous or having a TV show or having a stint in Vegas or having, 15 books is going to heal that, look at Matthew Perry, how tragic. This guy was a billionaire and on the #1 TV show, and he was so unhappy and self-medicating because he hadn't healed the trauma inside. We will never heal the stuff if we don't make an intention to heal it. So you have to feel it to heal it. It's going to be painful. Okay, do your human homework, but be honest about the why. So that's what a big learn for me, Michael, has been about being honest with why you're doing something. Is it for the greater good and service, or is it really deep down just so that you can get back at that third grade bully?
Do you have some favorite healers or some healer retreats that are surefire ways of taking a time out from what a person knows, from their routine, maybe for a whole decade or two, Is there somebody out there that you really like? It could be an online seminar or something like that, but is there a place? And I'm usually the opposite. I'm like, you don't have to go to India. You don't have to go to Machu Picchu. You don't
Right.
have to do this. Let it come to you, and you've got to do the work here. But do you have an external couple of places that retreats or healers that you really believe in?
Well, we do an annual retreat called the All Souls Retreat in Wisconsin every year, the first weekend of November, because of that very reason. I didn't want to have people go to ashrams or have to get, on the plane to India to feel like they're tapping into something. And that's why it's so great to have these kind of conversations like locally. But my two mentors, Pat Longo, the author of The Gifts Beneath Your Anxiety, and she and I have done stuff together for a long time. I really enjoy her work. I enjoy her book. I think that her nurturing comes through in the work that she does, and you just can't discount experience. There's something to be said for somebody who's been doing this for 3 or 4 decades. I think that's one of the problems we have right now with these new kind of, I guess it's is it Gen Z and millennials, the ages like 28 to 32, kind of where they think that they can just grab the world by the horns and do everything and do it all in a year. And I think that there's something to be said for the rapidity of how quickly people are opening up. That's a good thing. But life experience can't be taught in 1 year. Sometimes you have to live through 5, 10 years of, slogging through it. So Pat Longo is one. Carolyn Mace, MYSS. She wrote the book Anatomy of the Spirit, Sacred Contracts. I can always go back to her YouTube channel and listen to her interviews and wisdom. She's one of my dear friends. And yeah, there she is. Exactly. So I think it's always important. Judith Orloff, just a good, that book, Positive Energy, was one of my nightstand go-tos for the longest time, just to remember that it's not weird to feel assaulted when you're around really negative people. It's actually energy. It's all energy. And so that's why I think Joe Dispenza does some wonderful work crossing the barrier between men and women, because he talks about the science of all of this. This is not woo-woo. This is frequency. And so you have to understand that when you're with like-minded others, and so that's why it's important to have an audience where you feel, an audience, I mean like a community where you feel respected and heard and understood and valued. And so when the pandemic hit, Michael, I used to do just live events, and then I couldn't. So that's why I started something called the Spiritual Social Club, which was Zooms where we would have authors come and share their wisdom, and then people log on and can ask questions. But then we meet bi-weekly just to say, checking in, how are you? What's new? What's working? What's not working? And the other piece too is I feel like you're never too old to embrace this stuff. Don't ever think that it's too late. Like my mom is, I don't know, in her mid 70s, and she's kind of shut the door to a lot of things I've ever talked to her about. So I just kind of stop trying to inspire my family. It's not their jam. Like I have my spiritual family, but my blood family is like talk to the hand. So I talk to my spiritual family about this stuff. But my mom heard my interview with Lorna Byrne about the giving an angels a job. So she was walking the dog. She fell, landed on her wrist really hard, and was like, oh. So she thought, wait, I remember Jen saying that give angels a job. So she's like, hey, angels, if you're out there, kind of rolling her eyes, the dog's trying to wander away. She's holding onto the leash on the cement. Help. So this lady comes within minutes around the corner. Can I help you up? My mom says, thank you so much. And what's your name? And the lady says, Angel. So, Angel, right. Oh, but wait. So then Angel helps her to her feet. She's hobbling, really having a hard time. So this other lady comes out from her door and says, can I take your dog and help you to your front door? That woman's name, Spirit. I kid you not. So Spirit, she's a pastor in the neighborhood. Spirit and Angel helped my mom to her front door and helped her when she put out the flare. So it's never too late to learn this stuff, and it's never too late to start implementing them to see the results. Because I really feel like this, Michael, and I think you believe this too. They want to show up. They want to show off. They, meaning the angels, meaning your spirit guides, meaning all of this team spirit that is just hoping for our pleas. Think of that double entendre of that word. I'm pleading for your help, but please, your plea is a please. So just put out your plea, be heard, and then you will see results. But you have to make the plea first. You have to ask. And that's the big thing because of free will.
Spirit and Angel, great story on that one. I love it. Plus your own experience you mentioned at the start of the show. I'll mention one for hopefully just 30 seconds here. I was a trail runner in Austin because there were trails right behind our house, and I had 2 dogs one time. There were some loose dogs further back with some people, so I started to hustle. And this is a really technical trail. I've run for 42 years. This is the easy part. It looks like a sidewalk almost, compacted dirt, nothing to look out for. But there was a little rock. I stepped on it. It was like a gunshot went off, broke my ankle.
Oh,
It was my time,
oh,
bigger picture reasons. It helped change everything in my life at the time. But gunshot goes off. I hit the earth. I could not shake some stress actually from helping someone. And I tried showers, sage, and everything else. I let that energy into the earth. 2 dogs huddled on my head. I was having trouble, like I was turning white and somebody with me was yelling, breathe. That person went off to get a vehicle and get help. I've been on that trail so much, and it's a kind of isolated trail that you don't see many people. The guy out of Fantastic Four, the Thing, I think they
uh-huh.
call him, or something, looks like a giant rock pile. He comes along,
Yep.
Mr. Clean. And he
Yeah.
turns out to be a law enforcement officer still, but he works on the Capitol Hill, for Texas in Austin. So he still has he's a trooper, I guess. DPS is what we call him in Texas. He's now more lobbyist on that behalf. And he's like, by law, I can't leave you here, but he got me the final, like this is a 3-mile trail. I could have been stuck and had to be choppered out. Luckily, he got me to the end where the car could meet me. But there is no way with the number of years I ran on that trail that wasn't divinely orchestrated. And angels had told me I'd be back to running a 100-mile week. Not that I was running 100-mile weeks before, but I did do it a
Right.
year later, and I didn't have to go through rehab. I had the best surgeon who got to meet angels and meet Audrey Hepburn, and it's a long story, but the whole thing was really amazing,
Wow.
minus the pain. That was tough. So
Right.
what I wanted
Right.
to get to is the pain of life, lessons learned. And I'll give another quote. Life lessons lead to compassion. Unconditional love chief, Native American chief Lakota Sioux Redshirt said that. Life lessons lead to compassion. Could you share on your own path just a couple of lessons that could be, shortened up a little bit from 15 years ago, from last week, anything in between, where you feel like your perspective on things has just totally broadened?
Well, yeah, if anybody out there is a parent, talk about total surrender. I have a son who's, just 18 years old. And when you think that you know what's best for someone, but then they have free will, it's like, oh, look out. But I have a very big picture belief that we choose our parents for the lessons that they will impart on us, which takes a lot of the pressure off in a way. So my son knows what he signed up for with me, right? And I think about that with my parents, my dad dying when I was, at the age of when I was 30, and then my mom not being very spiritual. It made me have to work harder to dig deeper to find that self-love if I wasn't going to get it from a parent, right? You have to love thyself, know thyself. So that was a big shift for me, is just that outside in approval was my wiring up until about the age of 42, maybe. And then when I got divorced, that whole like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? Really owning, right? Accountability is a big, big, big deal. A lot of people can't own their stuff. And like you said, you have to learn to get to compassion through these bumps along the road. You have to acknowledge when you fall, and acknowledge when you're helped up. And sometimes you fall so that another can show up, just like you on the trail when the Mr. Clean showed up. It makes me think of Dr. Mary Neal when she broke her knee on this kayaking trip and was stuck underwater. She was in the middle of nowhere in Chile, and all these people, and suddenly there's a truck, and suddenly there's an ambulance, like in the middle of the jungle, out of nowhere. These angels just dropped out of the sky to get her to help. And that happens. But sometimes those earth angels, like Angel and Spirit, real neighbors of my mom, have to be called on because they have to get a nudge, go out front, and then they go out front, and then they see my mom there on the cement. Sometimes we are pawns, if you will, for the game of someone else to learn to show up. We have no idea what our destiny is, right? So yeah, becoming a parent, that was a big like, oof, okay, I know nothing. I'm trying my best every day. No manual or book can prepare you for basically bringing another being into the world, and also to burying somebody. I've watched 3 people take their last breath, and that's horrible. Even when you're prepared for it, there's nothing to assuage that grief other than to feel it. You know, we just did a live event with a woman named Susan Rowland, who's a psychic medium based in the Chicago area. I met her back when I was working at the Chicago Tribune. She was one of the only psychic mediums that predicted Trump would win in the beginning. Everybody else was saying it was going to be Hillary. And so, you know, I kind of followed her along, and she was never afraid to say the things that she was hearing and getting that were not in the main, you know, the mainstream. So we stayed in touch and we did a live event. And there was a woman in the audience who had lost her husband. And she was just furious. You know, she was so mad. And she says, I'm not getting any signs from my husband. He's not showing up. And Susan said, yeah, he is. You're just not allowing it in. Because imagine if you've got the umbrella on and you're standing there like this, the rain is going to hit the umbrella and trickle off, and you're not going to feel the rain. You're not going to get it. We can block energy flow and frequency with our intention at any moment, but that's because grief is a lower frequency. But you have to feel it to heal it. So Susan said to this woman, you feel mad for as long as you need to feel mad, but just know this, your husband sees you screaming at his picture every day and yelling at him. And she was like, I guess she's screaming at his picture. Where did you go? Why did you leave? You know, and Susan saw that and reflected that back. So the woman acknowledged that that was very helpful. That will help her get to that level of loving again. But you have to let the grief out. You know, I always say this to people, like when you sage, right? You're saging because you're disintegrating negative energy and bringing it back to the love frequency. So if you're letting out the negative, you have to then make room for the light to replace it. You're making room, you're creating more bandwidth. And that's the same with our mind, our monkey mind of all the judgments. Release a few judgments, and then you make room for new light-filled thoughts. That just creates a higher frequency in your whole body.
Okay, which I turned out of a 18-page document here of random quotes from either angels or historical quotes from like Einstein and so on. Ego is fear, wasted time, and energy. So says an angel named Charlotte. Talk to us more about how we're all going to do lots of thinking. So no one needs to get panicky or self-judging here. We're all going to keep doing what we're doing, but you know, a little less seriousness, a little less self-importance, a little less fear, worry, stress. Talk to us more about how it's that simple.
Well, so Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the Four Agreements, was one of the first spiritual interviews I did when I was working at CBS at the time, and it was a real hard pitch to pitch my producer. Can we please do a story on this guy who writes about Toltec wisdom? But I'm like, he used to be an MD. They were like, oh, I don't know. So I went to go interview him for the Four Agreements, another one of my go-tos, right? And he was talking about how, imagine if you're a plane trying to land on a runway. It's not going to land on the runway that has birds and people and chaos, you know, running in circles. It's going to land on the wide open field. So if you are a runway of chaos in your head, which is, again, you're human, you're in a human suit. So you got to play the role of being a human, but we could also let go of some of that to be the wide open field. And so just think about that. A plane is trying to land. Are you a wide open field, or do you have chaos in your runway, spinning and swirling where no plane would want to land? Because just like the air traffic controllers, you know, you get on a plane, they put in the air traffic control. Okay, we're going from Chicago to Texas, right? We're going to Austin. Here we go. And they've got the flight plan, and then they go. Well, if the pilot changes the flight plan like 5 different times, and then it starts going this way, and then it starts going this way, and then it starts going this way, and then it's going to take a while before that's going to land anywhere because you keep changing the flight plan. So I tell people, once you have your flight plan, let it soak in for at least 3 months. Really set that intention. And if it's not just for your ego, but it's really in service, watch what magic will happen when you allow the plane to land. We as humans, I think, get so like anxious and we want to pull on the roots to make them grow faster. You know, it's not going to make the garden grow any faster if you keep pulling on them. So now there's the other end of that, right, Michael? Like where people wait for 5 years and nothing's happening and they're like, but I know it's my destiny. Well, maybe it's time to pivot. Maybe it is time to try a different, like, all right, if your what is to own a convenience store and nobody comes in and you're losing money, then maybe you need a different what. Maybe you need to reassess and ask to be inspired as to what your new what is. And then you will get that guidance. It could have been your destiny, but maybe it ran its course. Maybe the contract expired. So let's renegotiate. We do that in business all the time. People renegotiate, they reevaluate. Hey, how is this working? Well, I'm 4 years now into it and I've lost every year. Okay, well, maybe the universe wants you to try something else. Ask for signs, see what shows up. I always tell people I wait for threes. When I get something in threes, Michael, it's like an anvil over the head. So the first time it's like, well, maybe I'll think about it. The second time it's like a shove on the shoulder, like, what? The third time, anvil over the head. I got it. You've got my attention. I'll do it. So give your team threes. Maybe they'll show up more clearly for you.
Nice. Okay, tell us about dream time. Do you have some memorable dreams? Is that something that happens for you? And is it sort of just another way to reach you?
So again, in setting my intention, I used to be so sleepless because I was traveling and getting downloads and all sorts of stuff. I would wake up so tired. I had to make a deal with my team. I'm like, all right, I'm putting up the do not disturb sign. Like when you're in a hotel and you put up the do not disturb sign, it's like putting up the do not disturb sign. Sorry, let me get some good sleep. If anything penetrates while I'm sleeping, if anything gets into my thoughts and if anything seeps in, it must be because I absolutely need it, or it's for somebody that I love and know and care about that needs a message. Otherwise, please let me get rest. Please let me sleep. And I have had a visitation. I had a dear friend who passed away in 2021 at just the age of 50, and she came in loud and clear in a dream with an absolute message that I needed. And it's a dream and a visitation from someone in spirit if you can see them, smell them, hear them, all the senses and clairs are activated. And that's what happened with her. So I basically say, again, setting the intention, you can only get through while I'm sleeping if it's for somebody's highest good, to save somebody's life, or has to do with my family or immediate circumstances.
Well, you led us right into the next question, which is boundaries. And it sounds like you have very
Yeah.
defined boundaries. You keep refining them as well. Can you talk to us again about the importance of keeping your energy, your attitude, your positivity, which is abundance, intact through boundaries?
Well, I had to unfortunately learn the hard way because as an empath, I was always trying to fix and heal and help. Some would call it enabling. There's a lot of addiction that runs through my family. So I would always just try to how can we fix it? How can we fix it? And so it took a lot of self-work to get to the point where I'm allowed to put up a boundary. And it's not that I'm against them, but I am for me. I am for myself. And so if you could just get to that reality that you can't share anything out of your pitcher, like you're having people over and you're making lemonade for everybody. If there's nothing in the pitcher, you have nothing to share. So you can't give what you don't have. And so I finally figured that out. And as a parent, it helps you do that. Like if you aren't putting on your oxygen mask with boundaries, and it took very firm boundaries with some members of my family who are just so used to me always picking up the slack. I called myself the dustpan. I was the dustpan for my family. It was like, oh, let me just take these little pieces up real quick and just get that out of the way. We'll just ignore that. And it was so depleting. And so it takes a while to be able to stand firm in that knowledge. But really, having that awareness, first of all, is that you even need a boundary is the first step. I tell people, even just being aware that you need a boundary, no is a complete sentence. And we forget that.
Yep.
And if they're not in a healthy place and they just need a body, they'll find somebody else to be their errand woman. And that's kind of what I was. I was the fixer and the errand girl and all of these things. It's like they'll find someone else. They just want somebody to assign. They don't really care who it is. But the people who really do care for you and love you will understand the boundaries. And so that was a big lesson for me.
Okay. So are you ready for some sage? We do this in every show. Audience members, if you've watched the show before, you've seen me light sage. It's usually juniper ridge sage. They're pretty consistent. It's the stuff you used to be able to get at Whole Foods. I think it's on my website. I don't get any commission or anything like that, but really consistent. They have great incense sticks as well. So it's going to sound maybe weird to some, but if you're a veteran healer, biggest flame I've ever had on the show. If you're a veteran healer, you already are probably smelling the sage or tasting it on your mouth. So this is from Texas to Chicago right now. You're catching sage, but why go linear? Why settle? Why not ask for flowers as well? Get some lavender, some wisteria, tulips, whatever rocks your boat. Let angels do their job. And if you want, catch a little ocean, Bimini, Abaco, Eleuthera, you know, where we should all be right now doing this live. Hint to the universe.
That's what
Okay.
happiness.
So you're getting sage. Can you tell us what you're experiencing?
Yeah, I feel one of the clairs that fires for me is the clairgustance, like being able to smell and taste. So I can definitely taste and smell the fire and the ash, the burn. It's beautiful.
And it's
But it's
just what
also
you,
refreshing.
it's also what?
Mhm. Refreshing.
Oh,
Very
perfect.
refreshing.
And it's what you said before about how everyone's connected, whether they know it or not. That's why having good boundaries, to tie it into another one of your topics, is so important to keep you intact and not feel drained later in the day. Back to Judith Orloff. You're all over the authors. Can you share? And when you said Don Miguel Ruiz, I was going to give you a choice. It was weird. I hadn't written this down, but it was going to be Paulo Coelho, Don Miguel
Uh-huh.
Ruiz, or Eckhart Tolle. But we're going to substitute in, instead of Don Miguel Ruiz, we'll do Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks, you know, light beings,
Sure.
and or law of attraction. If you could only pick one, who are you picking to spend 1 month with on Abaco or Eleuthera for a vacation? Esther Hicks or light beings
Mhm.
showing up in person? Maybe that actually would top everything. Eckhart Tolle or Paulo Coelho. Who are you choosing?
Um, I'd say Hicks. Yeah. I
Okay,
mean,
now
all of them would be
why?
wonderful.
Why? Because you have
Why?
you attended one of our seminars before?
No, that's why.
Okay.
Because I never have. I've just watched, some on YouTube, and I have a lot of friends who speak very highly of their experiences. And so I would just want to know what's going on for them and how it's processing for them, and what some of their deepest desires are, because everybody, whether they're one of those wonderful people that you mentioned, or Judith Orloff, or Carolyn Mesa, Paul Selig, any of these people, at the end of the day, they're all putting on their pants one leg at a time. At the end of the day, they have human moments. Um, and so that, to me, was the most, like, when was it Mother Teresa, when I found out that she had journaled about wondering, like, what is there even anything, is it all worth it? Like, of all people to be human, you wouldn't think Mother Teresa would be, and she was. And so that's, to me, that's what we have to remember, is that we're all vulnerable. We all have, bumps in the road. And that's what people say they like about my books, is because, you know what, I air the dirty laundry. My family hates it, but I do it because I don't want people to think I'm sitting on some pedestal saying I'm better than all of you. Look what I've learned. It's like, no, I've been in the bodhisattva with all of you. I have been there next to you, elbow to elbow, as we're in the trenches together, because that is truly what it's about. The second somebody tries to elevate higher than the group, as if they're holier than anybody, is the second I go, I'm out of here. And that's unfortunately something I see a lot in, because I used to do celebrity interviews and all that stuff too, Michael. So, to have to spend time with the celebrities, they act like they're doing us such a favor, and we're sitting there promoting their movie. So it's just a very twisted formula we have here in this third dimension of what's celebrated and what's not. But I would love to just pick the brain of any of those people you mentioned.
Okay. Talk to us just a little bit more about your books. That was another question coming up. We keep hitting them just a little early. You've got, I think, 4, right?
Yes, I'm writing the fifth right now. It's humorous spirituality is what I call it, as a journalist bumping through this world I didn't once believe in. But as I've found that I've embraced the reality of what's happening, and the fact that I am an empath and have been my whole life, once I acknowledged my wiring system, it really helped me navigate what's happening. So I'll get now goosebumps for yes, a stomach ache for no. I have a system now, and I always try to empower people, come up with your own system. It could just be a feeling. Some people see colors. I mean, look, musicians like Mozart used to see notes as certain colors. So everyone's got a different way of seeing the world. Honor other people's way, and just keep asking questions. And so that's what my books are, Michael. I just keep asking questions, asking questions, asking questions, because if we don't gather more knowledge, we're just going to keep doing what we've always been doing. Otherwise, we'd still think the world was flat, or we would think that it's okay to smoke on airplanes, which I remember. I hate to show my age here, but I remember that well. So we have to ask questions. That's the only way we evolve.
I had forgotten that they did that on airplanes, even though I was born in 1968. I had forgotten that we smoked on airplanes. Not me personally.
Yes.
But okay, here's a
Yeah.
regular Bic lighter. I'm gonna light it. You're gonna see a flame. If you're at home, just say yellow, gold, white, whatever you see normally.
Mhm.
And what do you
Mhm.
see, Jen? Is it white, gold? Pick any color.
It's gold, but it's causing a ringing in my right ear, which is cool.
Yeah. Now let's bring in extra angels at home. Hey, say make it nice. Practice saying make it nice. I'm borrowing a page out of your book. Before you walk out the door,
Mhm.
make it nice, angels. Before you go have a cup of coffee, it'll be the world's best cup of coffee, but maybe angels are kind of, spicing it up for you a
Uh-huh.
little. But the point is, see a little extra color. Set your intent, folks. You'll get purple, you'll get pink, little sparkles, a flare. I mean, who knows? But we know it's not the Bic lighter. So here we go. And are you getting a little extra light? No try. And I'll tell one quick dad joke before I run out of gas here. Santa's reindeer, Blitz and Dancer, just those two. Why do they drink so much coffee? Because they're Santa's Starbucks.
Brilliant.
Did you get a little extra light on that?
I did. I saw blue. I saw some blue.
Okay, I'm going to
Woohoo!
put an angel named Joy up. We did this before the show. We've done this before. But can you just get a topic that you're like, oh, yeah, I can run with that?
From Joy.
Yeah,
Self-care.
done.
That's what's coming up. Self-care.
And if you don't mind getting like repeated hugs while you're talking self care to bump up your own self care for the day today, because interviews aren't that easy. Um,
Yep.
yeah, tell us about self care. Why is that so important?
Well, it goes back to you can't give what you don't have, right? But we're always wanting to serve everybody else. But then I use this analogy a lot. Would you want the tired pilot flying your plane or the totally fried heart surgeon doing your open heart surgery? Of course not. So treat yourself like you are flying the plane that you are flying, which is your vessel, or that every day is open heart surgery for you because we really need to open our hearts. I've never said that exact sentence before, but I'm now seeing the double entendre. Open heart surgery. So let's open that heart and serve thyself. If you want to go for a walk, make time to do that. We always seem to do it for other people's projects, but we don't do it for our own. And so I've had to literally, Michael, schedule time for myself in my calendar. Like, okay, go for the walk and do this and do that. I try to go for a monthly, massage or chiropractic or even reflexology, just something to kind of keep me in alignment, quite literally in alignment. Make time for you by scheduling it. And then you have to do it because it shows up on the calendar.
Beautiful. I'm going to give you another angel named Charlotte, everybody's favorite school teacher from childhood with words meant to help you expand. You can ask her a private question, get an answer, get a hug, or you can get another topic to go with from her,
Ooh,
or both. And
there's something about
she's pulsed a little for some folks in New Zealand and elsewhere. So if you get any, I'll hold it steady. But if you get any extra light from her or it starts to move a little, not my hands. Okay,
yeah.
so what are you getting and what do you got for us?
I was just feeling trust, trust, trust. I think there are some people that are watching this that get stuck in their head and it's hard to trust, especially hard to trust when the signs can be so subtle, like a whisper. Um, and that is when it gets easy to trust when you get an anvil over the head. It's easy to trust when someone named Angel comes in and helps you to your feet. Those are some very obvious ones, but sometimes the ones that you really need to focus on are the ones that are getting you to strengthen your muscles of listening to your inner GPS, and so trust. I'm really hearing trust. If people could learn to trust and say, show me the answers, let me feel the answers, let me feel the whispers. Sorry, my dog is
That's awesome.
feeling the answers and the whispers of this energy. She's
I
just
turned red with that one, and I love a pooch coming in. Also, I've been laughing and trying to stay the serious host here. Every time you mention Claire, I have an angel named Claire for you who's resilience. And you've been
Ooh,
using it as more
oh,
clairaudient, clairsentient, and everything else. But
yes.
she's high vibe. Can
Oh,
you get something
she's
from
beautiful.
Claire? And by the way, Claire is one of my dog's guardian angels.
Oh, maybe that's why Birdie, my dog here, is going so bonkers.
Yeah,
Maybe
there's a
it's all Claire's.
Labradoodle here whose guardian
Mhm.
angel is Claire. Catch something witty and fun from Claire, and then share what you can share with us while you're getting a lot of dog love.
It looks like a heart shape in the center of that almost when you blur it's beautiful. Like with the burst in the middle is sort of heart shaped. So I would say that Claire is telling everybody out there to start looking for heart shapes and really take note, whether it's in the leaves, in the clouds, in the dirt. You'll be amazed at, you'll see it on your windshield as it's fogged. One morning, Michael, I actually saw heart shaped, my coffee grounds were heart shaped. Once I poured the cream in and it made a perfect heart shape. So that's what I think Claire wants people to start looking for, those little whimsical winks.
Now, speaking of shapes, here's 4 archangels. We're not doing anything with them. Rainbow pie slices. There's 3 more off camera. Here's
Uh-huh.
a fairy named Ginger. And then here's
Beautiful.
one of my business managers named Rebecca, along with Charlotte and Michael. But there's 4 balls of light in there. I wanted to get to the heart-shaped one named Heather. She makes hearts in her
Uh-huh.
photos. I thought you would like this. Even her name, Heather, is the word heart rearranged a little bit with a few extra letters.
Was. Yep.
And she's compassion and she's fun. And I've seen her in human form. People can just make that request and see if some strangers show up on your path in the next few weeks. But what are you getting about blah? And
Hmm.
explain where you're going to take us with the next topic. I think Heather's got something for you.
Yeah, I think Heather's, like you just said, that messenger, the unexpected messenger. And that's happened a lot. If you have somebody that out of nowhere, just somebody, oh, perfect. Wow, that's beautiful heart. If somebody out of nowhere is just coming into your, oh, there's another one.
She
Yes.
does energy and heart shapes.
Energy heart shapes. Oh, I love that. I love that. But you know, our setting the intention, right? That whoever's going to guide me to the next steps, whatever that looks like, whatever that feels like, then be open to the stranger at the tea shop. Just suddenly, you know, you've had this happen all the time. Is just suddenly they're just suddenly telling you, you know, I heard about this job opening over at blah blah blah, and they're just talking out of nowhere, and you're like, where did you come from, and why are you talking like this? That is an absolute plant. It's not an accident, it's a plant. And so maybe that's something that Heather wants people to be more aware of, the plants.
Okay, I'm going to use a historical photo, and this is going to be of a 1940s Hollywood actor, second highest
Okay.
paid British, Ron Coleman. If you've ever seen Lucky Partners, an Angel movie, 4 years ahead of It's a Wonderful Life, done by the #1 Hollywood film director Louis Milestone at the time, who did Ocean's 11, All Quiet on the Western Front, Pork Chop Hill. Also, oh my gosh, I totally forgot. Ginger Rogers, the #1 actress at the time, was in the same movie. I think it's the least discovered Hollywood film. But I'm bringing up this guy because I use that photo for an angel named John, whose synchronicity, serendipity gets other angels going to help you. You go to that shop, they got you to delay your trip out the door by 5 minutes so the timing would be just right so that the something could be delivered your way. Here's John, a historical photo, very dapper. If you could pick up something on serendipity, synchronicity, angels, working behind the scenes to make stuff for you.
Mhm.
And are you getting a vibe on this one? You don't mind me doing a non-energy photo, right?
No, no, no. I think it's very cool. I think it's something like I'm hearing unexpected packages. So remember how we talked about don't worry about the how, just focus on your what and make sure that your why is authentic. What I'm seeing is like somebody coming, you know, somebody coming to the rescue that you wouldn't expect, sort of like an unexpected coming in an unexpected package.
Hmm. Okay,
That's what I was thinking about that.
2 more, unless you want Mother Teresa as well, you'll let us know. I'm going to do Geronimo, an older photo of Geronimo. He's action, unconditional love, no
Uh-huh.
BS, dry wit, humor. You should be able to feel him
Mhm.
pretty intensely.
Yeah.
And what are you getting from Geronimo?
Loyalty. Absolutely. Being loyal to those that you know have a good compass.
Ooh, nice.
But also too, just making sure you're aligning yourself with those who share your character and your integrity. And that's really important. I think that sometimes we discount, again, going back to the empath and using it as your genius, the knowledge of those who share your character. Don't that is priceless
And
to
you can
find.
catch like one of those Native American smells, leather, sweetgrass, tobacco, juniper, pine. You get the idea, sage. What are you catching in the air now?
Sandalwood.
Beautiful. Okay, India, Sai Baba, Sri Shirdi Sai Baba, the one from 100 plus years ago. Someone got upset at me for not saying Sri Shirdi Sai Baba versus Sai Baba, but I think there's only one, even though I know plenty of people like that name recently. So here's Sai Baba from India, compassion, 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 straddled 3 religions, tight with angels. This is a photo that'll move, wink, smile, colorized, again, from 100 plus years ago. But you can catch an Indian temple incense in the air now that's very elegant that you'd practically have to travel to India to smell again. And hear
Wow.
anything on the compassion, how big it is, love,
Mhm.
and you might get a wink, a smile, a shoulder waggle, an ear moved. I'm trying to hold it steady with 2 hands.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful.
And what are you getting, Jen? Because you're a total, you call it, empath, intuitive, force sensitive. If we want to do Star Wars,
Star Wars.
exactly.
Pray. I'm just hearing pray.
Okay, pray, words through the heart, setting your intent. Tell us a little bit more about pray.
Well, just that I think a lot of people discount the power of it, right? Okay, so this is what it's coming to me. Okay, so recently, if you have a pain, say you have a pain, some people have a pain of abandonment or frustration or worthiness or whatever the pain is, right, that you're working on in your soul. When you pray to have that healed or you ask for guidance on how to heal it, then dedicate that to anyone else who has the same ailment. Does that make sense? So if you're trying to heal your abandonment, then whatever you receive, dedicate it out to all those who share that abandonment. If you've got a broken ankle, then you pray for the relief of that, and you dedicate all of that to anyone who has pain from a broken bone. Like what it's a way of serving while you're taking care of some self-care. So for a lot of people who don't want to ask for things or don't want to, pray for themselves, but they're willing to go to church and pray for everybody else, I tell them to combo it. Ask for what you need and then take care of others too, in the same breath.
Okay, back to your 4 books. Talk to us about which one, if they can only pick up one, which one are you recommending for folks to go with first?
Oh, geez. Well, if you're a real skeptic, stay tuned. That's the first one. Because that chronicles my journey from a skeptical journalist to looking at all this stuff that's going on. I'm Spiritual Dammit was the second one. The third one, This Isn't the Life I Ordered, I also think is great for people that feel like they have just like hit wall after wall after wall. And that's really, I think maybe that one, This Isn't the Life I Ordered. It's very much about like realizing that maybe it is the life you ordered, because it's just all of the things that you're going to learn as a result of this life that you ordered. It gets you more into surrender and acceptance instead of victim and fighting it and having your dukes up. Because a lot of times things happen and things don't turn out the way you thought they were going to turn out, but they might be better in the long run. So
Okay,
I always tell people, just look and see what's drawn to you. But because there's audiobooks too, like Intuition is Your Superpower is one of my favorite audiobooks that I have. So I just tell people, look on the books tab of my website or the audiobooks tab of my website and see which cover jumps out at you. That's the one you're supposed to have.
there's a great French film. It's black and white, done by Luc Besson. I think it's Europa
Mhm.
Film Company. He's the one that did The Professional, Fifth Element, and Joan of Arc, and so on. But he had a script for a Guardian Angel movie for 10 years in a desk drawer, and he just couldn't find the right people to play it. In walked the Danish actress from another famous movie, asking her about her documentary, but he saw her, tall, lanky, and just said, "You're my guardian angel." He grabbed a great actor from Morocco for this. You can see it on Amazon. It's called Angela, Angel-A. And there's a scene where the poor guy walking around Paris with his guardian angel, he doesn't know she's an angel, is sitting at a cafe. And it's come to the point where he's like, "Wait, what do you mean you fell from the sky?" And this is all in French. You got to read the subtitles. And he eventually gets to the point where he's like, "Okay, could you prove it?" And she levitates the ashtray. And when it's all done, the ashtray literally goes up. He's doing what we would all do, which is look around, put a hand underneath, checking. And he then says, could you do it again? Because I don't think I believe the first one. And she goes, you don't need miracles, you need hitting. It's a very funny movie. And so she agrees. She unfolds a cigarette that was crumpled and then turns it
Yeah.
new and lights it and smokes it. Now, what I'm getting to here is he looked all over the place when something miraculous happened. You know, all of us have gone through this. Have you had something where your reporter self, absolutely refused to accept it the way it was given? You circled the desk, you did something, you looked all around, you checked to make sure somebody down the hallway hadn't been the one responsible for it. Do you have one of those funny moments you can just share with us where you refuse to let a miracle be a little mini miracle?
Yeah, no, I had somebody on my radio show once, and he said to me, I want you to think of something, and I did. And I thought of this beautiful tree, like a tree of life kind of tree. And he said, okay, are you thinking about it? And I said, yes. And he goes, now I want you to draw it on a little piece of paper in front of you. So I did the little tiny post-it, just kind of went like exactly. And so then he took his pen and paper and we both went 1, 2, 3, reveal. And he drew exactly what I drew. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I thought he had put a mirror behind me, above me, so that he could look. And, you know, I literally was like, okay, hold on. In the commercial break, I was looking at everything. I was going, and it wasn't. He was obviously just a very talented mentalist. So, but beyond talented, I couldn't even believe what I experienced. So yes, that has happened to me more than once.
Okay. What's your final bit of advice for all of us? You know, there's seasoned healers watching this show. There's people just starting out. I mean, everyone's firmly on their unique life path, whether they know it or not. What's your final bit of advice for all of us?
Self-love is the only way to all of everything. So, but that sounds like a selfish wiring, but the self-care, self-love piece, I wish I had gotten the memo decades ago that basically like attracts like. So if you want things to show up in your life and they're not, you have to ask yourself, well, what's missing inside of my operating system for this to keep showing up half broken, or people not holding themselves accountable, or whatever. Anything that's coming at you in your life is a reflection of what's inside your operating system. So we can't blame anything outside. It's all inside out. That's it. So knowing that and seeing what's around you, your life can either be very rich or very depleted. And that all depends on how you are wired. And so again, I honor people to think of themselves like a giant cell tower constantly emanating a signal. What are you broadcasting? You know, as a broadcaster by trade and a journalist for decades, what are you broadcasting? And take ownership of what that broadcast is and choose wisely.
Okay, now, if you could do one last mantra, a t-shirt. You own a t-shirt printing company. What's the latest mantra that you're trying to wear on your t-shirt that's just, you know, reinforcing how your vibe is rolling these days? What's a funny one that, you know, it's just, you know, I've seen a lot of great t-shirts in my day. I can give one just to buy a little time for you, but like, how about I'll make this up. It may or may not make sense, but my guardian angel is addicted to coffee. That would be my t-shirt.
Right.
And I love coffee and I'm having coffee all the time.
Right.
Yeah. And I pour
Yeah,
coffee
me too.
like the Native
Well,
American chiefs.
I think I'm spiritual, damn it, because you can say damn it and God is still going to love you. And you can go to happy hour and you're not going to be cast in giant fire and brimstone. I mean, you can do these things with anything in moderation, any sort of judgment. I'm spiritual, damn it, and God still loves me. And I said, damn it. You know, that's kind of where that whole moniker went. And also know thyself and love thyself. Know thyself, love thyself. It's not, but the know thyself too. And then own your you know what, T, own your stuff. Because if you don't own it, you're going to walk around pretending that you're holier than everybody else. It's like we're all wounded warriors. So just own it when it happens. So there's probably more than one that you want,
Oh, no, that
more
works.
than you asked
Well,
for.
Jen Weigel, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for being on Angels, Positivity, and Love. Really look forward to staying in touch and probably having you back on again next year.
Oh, I love it. Thanks for all that you do and for inviting me. It was a real treat. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you again.
Hey, thanks, Michael. Have a great rest of the day.